Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Sadlier School Live. My name is Camberly Woods, and I'm thrilled to be bringing back Ellen Edmonds today. Hello, Ellen.
Hi.
Ellen is going to be talking to us about ways that we can get kids writing from home right now. So whether you're an educator, whether you're a parent or caregiver, this will apply to you because we're going to talk about the importance of writing and some different techniques that you can utilize to integrate it into the kids' weekly learning process. And I want to ask any of you that are joining us live or maybe watching the replay, if you could just leave us a comment and say hello. We would love to say hello back to you and have a discussion with you. So Ellen, let's start to talk about why writing is so important.
Well, obviously writing is a part of being a literate human being. It's a great way to communicate, and we need to write in lots of different aspects of our lives. And it's in some ways a sort of forgotten part of literacy. And I think part of it is it's very difficult to teach. And a lot of our students, whatever grade level they're in, aren't really enthusiastic about writing. And
Yep.
so, one of the things we know is that when you write, the more you write, the better you are at it. And there is a relationship of reading and writing, that a sort of reciprocal relationship. So there's value in writing because it impacts your reading and vice versa. So, I think we also think about writing very much as an English language arts aspect of learning, but we write in science, we write in social studies, we write in math, and writing actually deepens our understanding when we can explain something in written language. It really requires us to have thought about it more deeply, to have understood it. And so that's very helpful to students as they're in the learning process.
And, something else that's outside of the academic realm is just the day-to-day, writing that happens on even something like social media or text messages. So again, even that real world minor application also involves writing, and it's important for us to know it just from that standpoint.
Absolutely. And when we're writing on social media, we're usually writing really pithy little statements, but to write in that concise way, with grammatical correctness, takes some practice. It's a lot easier to be verbose than it is to be focused and to really communicate effectively in a few sentences. And so that's something we need to get better at too, I think. Sometimes we miscommunicate in writing because we haven't worked enough on the message that we're sending and thought about it enough. And writing is an iterative process. We draft and we revise, and that's something we do even when we're writing something very brief, and it's good for children to get in the habit of that.
Yeah, you're right, because a lot of times great writing just doesn't spill out that first go around. And so going back and looking at it, reflecting on how you could make your own writing better is a big part of the equation.
Right. Being able to look at your own writing, proof your own writing, and to think about how to improve it is a really great skill. And so getting students to do that. And, I think for all of us, it's hard to make ourselves go back and look at our writing again. Sometimes I think that happens because we've had a teacher who's put a lot of red ink on our papers. I think we've all had that experience of there's a lot of red ink and I feel like I'm not competent as a writer, and what do I do about that? So I know that teachers are really working hard to just give a couple of aspects of feedback, focus on a couple of things. And as parents, we want to do that too. We don't want to say, you need to start from scratch. That's horrible. We want to say, I really liked the way that you used adjectives. I felt like I was really with you. I could smell your icky tennis shoes, and I could hear the balls bouncing in the background and the screams. But I really wish that you had used complete sentences, because it would have helped me better understand what you were trying to share with me. So one thing that I did really well, and one thing or two things that I might want to focus on to improve, and that's doable for any of us to do that. So, I think that helps us be less afraid to revise if we aren't envisioning the red ink that's on a paper. Even if there's not any red ink, we kind of have that mental mindset that it's, not a good piece of writing. So,
Well, and I think there's a couple great things you said. There was one, kind of giving kids that critique of here's something you did well and here's something you could improve upon, so that they know what those strengths are that they can continue to develop. And then they also can identify the weakness in the writing that could be stronger. And even a parent who might be coming in and doing the same thing could do the exact same thing, provide your kid with a couple of things about here's what I liked, here's what I didn't, and come in more as the coach. You don't really need to be a teacher teaching your kid writing, but come in as a coach with that kind of helpful feedback that's going to improve their skills.
yes, and you can talk too about together, we read something that we thought was written really well. What made that such a good piece of writing? Because being really conscious of what we liked about something we read helps us really transfer that to our own writing. And so I think there's so many opportunities right now for children to write because they're home, whether they're high school students or they're kindergartners. And for kindergartners, writing can be drawing a picture and dictating a story to a mom or a dad or a sister or a brother. It doesn't have to be the physical act of writing, although certainly we want that to take place. And we can be journaling on a regular basis. This is a very unique time in all of our lives, and even having our family talk about what we recorded in our journal. It's a great time to write about your idea of a perfect day, because most of us don't feel like we're experiencing perfect days right now. If you could travel anywhere, where would you travel right now, or what would you do? What seems appealing? If you could go eat at any restaurant right now, where would you like to go eat, and write about that? And as we're doing math, don't just do the problem that you're doing. Ask your child, hey, tell me in writing, explain to me how you solved that problem, and tell me why your answer makes sense mathematically. Put it in writing, because that will deepen their understanding, and you'll be able to check and see if they're using a process that's a logical process, and be able to get a window into their thinking. So there's so many opportunities right now to write, I think.
Yeah.
High school students can start working on their college applications and what they would want to put as a part of the essay that they might submit for the college that they're applying to.
Yeah.
Students who are thinking about going into the job world can think about what they might put on an application for a job.
Yeah. And I love all of these applications. And one of the things you mentioned was the journal writing. And a few weeks ago on the ELA blog, we actually republished a post on journal writing. And that includes a few dozen different journal writing prompts for kids. I think one of them is kind of similar to what you're saying, like describe your perfect day. If you could travel anywhere, where would you like to go? So if you guys are interested in grabbing that, I've linked to it in the comments on this video. And another place you can go to access daily writing prompts is on our social media accounts. On our social media accounts, we share daily on weekdays writing prompts for students. So you can access those there on Sadlier School's accounts.
And I think we've got some information on our Sadlier School account about writing and grammar. And again, we don't want to mark our child's paper with tons of red ink, but looking at writing is a good way of seeing what they understand about the grammar that they're learning, the conventions of standard English. And so focusing on one or two things, maybe their use of plurals, or maybe the absence of adverbs, or something like that is really different.
You could go as simple as like, let's talk about a contraction and using contractions in it. Or like you're saying, what are some other adjectives we could fold in, and pulling out the thesaurus and looking through that vocabulary and incorporating that. I think you hit it spot on by saying writing really bridges the gaps. And even with math, we can use it to help check for that understanding and help them understand the material even deeper.
Absolutely. I think it's just a really great time to be writing to your best friends because you can't see them. We
Or
know that
grandparents. Yeah.
absolutely grandparents and writing to each other and while we're in our homes is a good way of communicating because we're on top of each other and getting on each other's nerves. And so, saying, hey, if you're frustrated with me, maybe write me a letter and tell me why you're frustrated, because that will be a way of communicating that might not be as tense. And so getting children to know that a part of how we communicate is through our writing. And that's how some of the best poetry is written. That's how some wonderful songs are written, is out of that frustration with human interaction. And so there are lots of different ways to write. If we can find the one hook that gets a student excited about writing, it makes a lifetime of difference. So writing about something you're passionate about,
Yep.
whether and I think sometimes what happens in school is we have very focused writing. We're writing in response to something they've read. We're writing about something we're studying, and it's not something that turns the student on. So if while they're home, they're writing, if they write about something that they really care about, video games or playing basketball or clothes and the colors of my clothes,
Yep.
that might be really exciting to me, and I might really get inspired to write. And if I write about those things that matter to me a lot, I'm learning how to effectively write and communicate. And then that carries over to the other writing we do.
I love it. Those are great tips. And next time my child has a tantrum, I'm going to say, go get your pen or get your paper and pencil and write it out. Let's stop tantruming over it.
I know that when I look at my grandparents, my great grandparents' letters to each other when they were apart, letters to, home when my dad was in college and he wrote to his siblings. It's really a wonderful insight into what was happening in his life. And so I think it's so valuable to write. We really don't write the way that we maybe once did. And I just think it's a great time to really foster that again and really encourage writing.
I love it. Well, thank you for being here today. And as I mentioned, we linked to those journal writing prompts in the comments here. So if you want to check that out, you can access those journal writing prompts here to help inspire your learners at home. And we will be back on Monday at 3:00 p.m. Eastern, 12 o'clock Pacific, and we hope to see you there. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you for letting me join you.
It was a joy. I'll see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.